Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
Is this going to be an all men conversation today?
Nope,
Men,
Nick.
men, men. Nope, there's Nikki.
No,
There's
Nikki. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, man, you're good.
Awesome, great. Using a different mic. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
I am all right. Long time no talk to.
Yeah, your hair looks very, I don't know, is it a new look or something? Or yeah.
It's called a not getting a haircut in a long
Yeah.
time look. But I was going to say, Dan, I'm glad that yours is getting like wavy and crazy like mine.
I call it my COVID cut.
Yeah,
My
I'm
COVID cut,
actually going out. I'm venturing out this afternoon. I finally said I can't do it anymore. And we've been open now. Barbershops have been open for 2 weeks. So
Oh,
I
wow.
figured that hopefully they have actually ironed out some of the kinks now. So I'm going this afternoon. I got to get this taken care of. It's ridiculous.
I feel you on that one for sure. I'm I have the Harry Styles look sometimes, depending on the. Well, and I just want to let you all know, and as we get started and other participants come on board, that we will go until 1 o'clock, but we can go a little longer if we need to this time. We've taken care of that, fixed that issue
right.
with our Zoom account. So, hi, Nikki, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Glad you could join us.
Yes, I have my COVID hairdo too. Just throw it up in a bun.
Right.
I'm in Northern California, so our hairstylists are not fully open yet, and I'm not dying to get a haircut that badly.
No, right.
I think it's different for you gentlemen. I tried to get my coworker to do a man bun, but he said he'd go bald before he'd man bun.
Yeah,
Not that
I
there's
could go
anything
with
wrong
that.
with bald. Yeah, I still use like a razor. In fact, I shaved my entire head for the first time just out of sheer boredom like 6 weeks ago, and it's amazing how quick it actually grows, where it grows, and otherwise it's a dead issue.
So, let's get started. We have some others coming aboard, but where are we now? I saw someone saying in one of my feeds that they're, what's next in Jumanji, for June.
Well, the Killer Hornets didn't really take off like we thought they were. I mean, I think there was like this news cycle that needed to be fed with new things to take our minds off, and I haven't heard squat about that. Of course, they probably don't have a good PR firm too. So.
Right, of course, right, exactly.
And there's no Killer Hornet Association?
Not yet.
It just started, I'm sure. So what is everyone feeling like they're getting back to normal, or a new normal, or is there something that's looking good? Positive trend somewhere?
Well, I think
want to get back to normal.
Yeah, go ahead. What's up, Pete?
How's it going? I'm saying I don't want to get back to normal. Normal means I got to commute back to work every day.
Right.
I don't know.
I agree with that.
Well, I know this is not a membership question, and I'm just looking at people's video now. Everybody seems to still be at home. What is going on with people going into offices? Are you guys going to start going back into offices? Because I keep hearing that some people are going back into offices, and I'm like, what in the world? Why are you doing that now? And and I know that is not membership related, but I'm just curious how you guys are all feeling. For those of us who do have offices to go to, are you going back soon? Has that conversation started, and what's going on?
We haven't even started. We actually just spent $2.5 million renovating our complete office, and nobody's in it.
Right.
And I don't know. We will not. I guarantee we don't know when we're going back, but I know we will not be going back to what it was before. As far as everybody in the office at the same time, that's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, that's what we've looked at too, and we really haven't decided that we're going back to the office. But if we do, it is going to be probably. They really haven't told us, but it's probably going to be on a alternating basis. That I'm going in 1 week and then staying at home the next week, or that type of thing. And and yeah, the space itself and trying to figure that out. Yeah, we're spending a lot of money on a monthly basis on an office that we're not using. So it's you know, they're trying to work it out. They're actually looking at the design of the office to see if that needs to be changed or updated in some way that will actually help that. So right, it is. Yeah, that's a big concern, but no, there's no timeline, Scott, as far as when we're going back yet. But I have a feeling that's going to be coming down the line in the next month or so.
We're going back July 22nd.
July
Wow.
22nd.
They're doing it in waves. Those of us that have kids get to stay home for as long as we need to. They've modified seating in all of our conference rooms, put capacity levels in all of the offices and rooms in the office, made the hallways one way, put nanoseptic skins on the doorknobs so that they self-cleanse. And what else were they did? They changed all the doorknobs to be touchless doorknobs on the bathrooms. So there's apparently a big plan coming out to all of us just after the 4th. Teach us how to go back to the office.
Jennifer, where are you guys?
We're in Alexandria, in Old Town.
Okay.
Yeah, we're also in Old Town. We are a very small staff association, standalone, 5 people, including our executive director, and we all have our own offices. And even still, we're not going back until after Labor Day at the earliest. And even then, it's going to be staggered as to who's going in on what days.
Yeah, I think it's a big question. I think it sort of segues into what we're talking about now is because I'm sure that most of us, if not all of us, have noticed that the cases are rising again. Congratulations, we're open. Let's all get sick. And that to me is, I think, the biggest variable right now in whether you're going back to the office or not, and also what we're doing with our member recruitment and retention and everything else, because Kevin and I actually are at the very, very, very preliminary stages of working on a member recruitment campaign. And I'm already thinking, what are we going to do for messaging? And what we want to do today could be very different than what we want to do a month from now, because, none of us have a crystal ball and we don't know what's going to happen, but the trends right now are not looking positive. Let's just put it that way. In San Diego County, I don't know exactly who it was because I got it sort of secondhand, but put out a message saying, more or less, can you guys please stop being idiots? As the public, stop being idiots. Stop congregating together, wear your masks, do what you're supposed to be doing, because we can already pinpoint 4 outbreaks in the San Diego area that are due to people being stupid. And that's not just the San Diego stupidity, it's all across the country stupidity. And people just don't, I saw a really interesting post the other day that said, is the pandemic over? Did I miss something? Did it end and just nobody told me? Because I see people everywhere hanging out, doing things. And this is not but yesterday we went to the park because our parks are now finally open. Maybe these guys all live together. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they will. There were 10 guys without masks, without shirts, hanging all over each other, playing Frisbee golf or Frisbee football, Frisbee, whatever. And they were just intermingling all sorts of stuff. And I was like, what? Unless you guys do live together, what are you doing?
Well, Scott, doesn't that kind of attest to just what creatures of the media we are? A lot of times collectively we think we are. And then because there's been less attention, more justifiably on the protests and things like that, where people, they took their eye off the ball. And so lots of people, like in Vegas, where our entire economy depends on having a reputation for not being infectious. People have just sort of lowered their guard. As soon as they open the bars, then everybody's just sort of hanging out like they always did. You go to the supermarket, it used to be 70% masks 3 weeks ago. Now it's 10%, and people look at you funny if you wear one. So I think that, coming back to your point about what's happening with membership, I'm thinking about, large-scale surveys that we're fielding right now, where at first the association would say, well, I don't know, do you think this is a really good time for it? If their board or the chief decision maker said, yeah, I think it's okay. we just go ahead and go through all the steps, but we just have sensitive wording. We try to take into account, we acknowledge that COVID exists, and we get now, at first we're getting really good response rates. Now we're getting normal response rates. And I do my own help desk. So when people are saying, hey, I can't believe you're doing this survey right now, I engage them, instead of just like going into the ether, I talk to them and then come back to the client and say, hey, this is what we're kind of hearing. It's almost like things were very quiet and people were adjusting to working at home. I think like everybody here, we're actually pretty damn comfortable here. Of course, some of us do this all the time, but the vast majority, both association people, but also your members, they seem to have adjusted fairly nicely. I say I chat with a lot of them just if they have a problem or something, just on the survey side, or of course on the membership campaigns I do with you and with some other folks too. And yeah, we're seeing same response rates, same pickup. I think we almost have to look at a lot of this like it's a new normal, because it is uncertain in the future. Are we gonna see like a second curve? We are grossly outperforming the rest of the world in terms of at least cases, if not fatalities per capita yet, but we're going to catch up there too. And it almost seems like people, if you hear the logic, they say, well, but it's the old and it's the frail, or the people with severe conditions, and they're already rationalizing it. I almost feel like regardless of what the epidemiology is, the attitude about it has already come and gone. If it crops back up, it'll be like, PSAs for flu season. Hey, don't forget to get your shot. And of course, there is some progress being made, according to the BBC, at least this morning, on a real vaccine and high-end treatments for people with severe sequelae and symptoms. So we may be done with this. To the extent that it's a major issue, people will still die, but it almost seems like the body politic has kind of just like moved on. That's my rant. So.
Well, I'm actually curious, Scott. A few of these meetings back, or actually the last few meetings, we've actually talked about not being able to contact even members, and not even prospects, but members, because they're not in the office. And so I kind of wonder if folks have found any solutions to that, or if they've actually had some success. Even knowing that folks are not going into work or not, especially for the trade associations, especially obviously individuals, that you either have mobile numbers or you have home numbers that hopefully help that. Lee, you're kind of nodding over there. I'm kind of wondering if you've had some success there.
I have, and I'm sorry that I've missed the last couple calls, but I'm super excited to be on this one. Yeah, so I work for the State Government Affairs Council and run membership, and our members are state government affairs professionals, aka lobbyists, from all across the country, from professional societies, trade associations, and Fortune 500. So in some ways, we've had good success in the sense that most of our members are used to working from home or working on the road, because they're on the road usually 90% of their time. But what we've discovered is that where before there would be a lot of times where like phones would be forwarded to cell phones or things like that, that's not necessarily the case anymore. So email and even LinkedIn. And we've been seeing a ton of engagement on our LinkedIn pages and in our discussion groups on LinkedIn. And that's really been one of our primary ways to be able to engage with members and have some success when it comes to just getting into contact with them, is through LinkedIn and email. And we're actually seeing close to an 80% open rate right now on all of our emails, wow, which is massive. I don't have to tell you guys that.
Great.
So that's really where we've pivoted to, is more online communication.
Wow. That's good progress. I'd like to get 80% open rate. That's for sure.
Lee, I want to know, I'm going to put you on the spot. I want to know your secret sauce. What are you putting in there? Because even you could say we're giving you $1 million, and I don't think you're going to get an 80% open rate for most people.
Yeah, I have no idea. I was just as shocked when right before this call, I had my biweekly staff call, and our communications director gave us that, and I was like, are you kidding me? what is going on? And I think for us, it's the sense that our members aren't drinking from a fire hose as much as they were at the beginning of this. Most of them have now gotten past the phase of trying to get their industries established as essential businesses or things like that. And now they're actually having time to look at their emails and engage with us on a digital level that they haven't had before. So that was the best that we could come up with. I'll be interested to see whether that sticks or not and what our trend rate is.
That will be interesting.
We're seeing kind of a mix on our end. So we're seeing actually our open rates actually decline a little bit. So we've been tracking them over the last year. Not significant, but enough that it's like noticeable. But on the flip side, we're seeing big jumps in our social media channels all across the board. I'm going to say 2 months ago, we passed like 10,000. So it took like 5 years. I can't remember which channel this was to get to 10,000. Now we're at 12,000. So like we're seeing a lot more engagement. I think what we're struggling with, and I don't know if others are doing this from a membership standpoint. And again, so we're in the medical field, so it may be a little bit different. We a lot of things that we've done specifically related to COVID are open access. And now we're starting to be like, okay, well now when does that become member activity versus open access? And it's not just us as an organization. A lot of our publishers across the board are doing the same thing when it comes to research related to COVID. So we're kind of in this weird spot where same thing, members may or may not be at their office. Some stuff is still free access, but now we need to try to monetize some of that because like we've wiped out all of our in-person meetings canceled for the we're talking right now, February of next year, maybe we'll have our next one. Yeah. So that's a huge revenue source that's just disappeared for us.
Well, Pete, you guys may be doing this already, but as you're putting out, because a lot of groups are putting out free information because they just feel like they have to, right? And I get that. But something that I've heard a lot of people have success with is using that free access as lead generation, right? Like you get it for free, but you get it for free with the price is give us your information. And so a lot of people are doing free webinars and things like that, where they're like, all right, you can take this as a member or as a non-member, but you're giving us your info so that we can reach back out to you and use it for recruitment. I saw you gave the thumbs up. So are you guys already doing that type of thing?
Yeah, we're doing that. I think, and we'll see as we go over the next sort of 6 to 9 months, what that translates in as far as pickup. We're also in a lot of ways competing against sister organizations. So when it comes to choice, if our competitors are still putting stuff out for free, that value proposition it changes a little bit for them to make that membership choice. And so what we're trying to do is also have discussion about some new services. We're trying to pilot some new types of education for our members, those kind of things, to just position the organization a little bit differently in this space.
I think that's really smart. And I think from a benefits and value proposition perspective, we're all in a hard place right now. Because speaking personally, if I now, unless it's something I really, 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 really feel that I have to attend, and it's not membership, it's more on sort of the education side of things, I'm not paying for it, right? I could sign up for a webinar every hour a day and get maybe not the greatest content, but get pretty good content for free 24 hours a day if I wanted to. So we now have to put even more emphasis on value and how we're unique, because you're right. Either if your sister organizations aren't doing it, maybe some of your vendors are doing it. Maybe some of your other things that are affiliated to you guys are doing it. And so we need to be really sure that we are providing a true value, because there's so much out there for free right now. And I wonder if this is a trend, right? Is this going to be something that's ever going to go away? And if it's not, our value proposition's got to be strong, and we got to be on top of things every minute of every day, which is not usually what associations are often good at.
Well, we're also seeing new competitors come into the field. Again, being on the medical side, there's a lot of groups that are just jumping into this. Now here's a tipping point that we can jump into this market. And so we're seeing new competition as well. What
does that look like? Is it online mostly?
Yeah, well, in fact, we're in a situation now where people are actually stealing our content and then repositioning it. So we're just dealing with that yesterday and today. Not just ours, but even our sister organizations. So they're collating content, stripping our names out of it,
Ooh,
posting it in their sites or their YouTube channels, and monetizing that.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's like they're leveraging the chaos that's going on.
absolutely.
Wow.
Peter, I have a follow-up question for you. I know you were mentioning your sister organizations. I know for us, we've seen actually an increase in synergy between us and a lot of sister organizations, partner orgs, in hosting content, in putting like virtual roundtables together, different things like that, even going so far as to do like one-day summits together and things. Is there, I'm curious and open up to the entire group, has anybody else had success with this or seeing a similar trend?
Yeah, we've done some of that. When this kind of first hit, there was about a half a dozen organizations that are kind of in the same space that came together to have some of this discussion, which is kind of, what do we want to provide? We did some joint statements. We signed on to some, I don't know, PPE letters, things like that, we all have a common interest in. So at the outset, there was a lot of synergy. I think now we're in that space 3 or 4 months later where, again, kind of to Scott's point earlier, that attention may be waning, and Kevin was saying a little bit too, attention may be waning in this area. So now we're back more into that competitive mode. So some of that is changing, but yeah, we've done some of that. I don't know, have others seen opportunity in that space too?
I know we have some new folks on the meeting this week. We'd love to hear from you if you
Canada
wanna...
count?
Of course.
Sure, of course.
So I think what we're seeing is a bit of a shift. No, in the sense of, so I'm Renee. I'm with the Home Builders Association Vancouver. That would be Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, beautiful BC, whatever tagline you want to use. And we're the only residential construction association in the country. So the National Association of Home Builders would be our counterpart in the US. And we belong to them and we borrow from them and stuff. So we don't have competition in terms of the association per se, but when it comes to what we do for education, we've got so many people coming in trying to get on a bandwagon. And one of the things I am now noticing is, you're right, you can get a webinar any time of the day or night now. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but I think people are really tired of webinars. I've already got people asking me because we've started phase 2 of the pandemic. That's correctly, not Vancouver, Washington. Although I do get requests about membership from people in Vancouver, Washington every now and then. But what I've noticed that there's a lot of fatigue with the webinars and things. And now we're getting asked to try and find a way to do hybrids. So some in-person, some webinar. And in the beginning, we did all of our webinars for free, but that's not sustainable, right? Like, I'm very fortunate, and I'm knocking on wood a lot these days, because I've been able to recruit members into the association during these times. There are so many home builder associations here and in the US, they're getting nobody. Right. Nobody's talking to them. You pick up the phone, there's nobody to talk to. So we are now trying to transition to, we have an awards, which we have had to do online. So we have this great live event, and now it's going to be online. And once that's over, so Lee, in answer to your question, yeah, we're going to start trying to do hybrids next month. So we're not sure what that's going to look like yet, because a lot of the places that, and I'm sure this is true for all of you, where you've had your events, like one of my places, they're out of business. They're never coming back. I have to start figuring out how the hell I'm going to replace that. Thankfully, that's more of an extraneous regular event, so I don't have to do that today. But I'm still trying. I want to do my new member orientations with people live. Doing them online is okay, but it kind of sucks. There's something you definitely miss when you can't chat with them face to face, right? So, but the thing is, I have lots of members that have space, so I can at least do a, an in-person 15 person, but companies are not necessarily allowing folks from the outside in. There's, it's a catch-22 right now. So I might know more in a couple of weeks, because I'm going to try and take a couple of weeks off at the end of this month. But this is the thing, is trying to get them to feel comfortable. So I have gone to my members and I said, look, I really want to do in-person events. I need some money to build portable plastic barriers. So one of my members who's been studying very carefully, I don't know what you guys call it, but here Workman's Comp is called WorkSafe BC. And they have said, hey, if you can't meet the 6 foot requirement, you can have plastic barriers. So we're trying to figure, she designed one that you can see through it and still talk to people and stuff and take it with you and so on.
I would think that would be a function of your property, wherever you're holding the event. I don't know, what do other people agree, or?
How do you mean? Well, they're just portable barriers, so that if the place can really only quote unquote take 10 without the plastic barriers, if I have some, then I can actually do 15.
Oh, okay.
So it still works within the rules of the provincial health officer, because she is God here. Trust me, like, she is God. But we can still, because trying to get less than 15, it's hard, right? Like, anyways.
Yeah.
It's, you know what? If you never try, you die, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. Nicole,
I don't know if someone's got to. At least they're plasticking. You can see through it. You can't touch anybody.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I just wondered why the organization or the guest at the property would be the one responsible for that, and not the property.
We're going to. Well, I know, but I thought I could put logos on them for the people who contributed to it, right? And then hopefully someone will say to me, "Well, what a great idea, Renee! Can I make some for you?"
Right. Sponsor.
Well, I know we've sort of transitioned into a meetings conversation, but
sorry,
I wanted to ask Renee to follow up on what you were saying. Are people starting to hear from their members, like Renee, it sounds like you are, or they're meeting attendees, all right, or prospect, sort of a virtual blowback? I mean, I think that when we had to, right, which in many cases we still have to be virtual, people were very accepting of the limitations of virtual. And maybe this is me being old school. Maybe this is me being much more interested in actually seeing people and truly connecting with them than seeing you guys like I see you now, which is nice, but it's still not the same across the table. And now that we've had a chance to experience it nonstop pretty much for a few months, I am starting to get the sense from people I'm talking to that they're like, this is not the same. And yeah, we need to go hybrid, but from a member value and a attendee value perspective, the virtual attendee, in my opinion, is probably looking for something very different than the face-to-face prospect, the face-to-face attendee. And how are we going to address that? Because we almost, as association staff people, have to create two different yet intertwined events. And oh my God, people are blowing up, their heads are exploding just trying to do a virtual one. So now how are we going to do these hybrid ones?
So you know what? You're absolutely right, Scott. And if you think you're old school, I'm even more old school. I don't even mind telling people this. I have no problems picking up a phone and talking to somebody, and I have no problems going and visiting people. I think what's happening is even the people who like we have a lot of younger members who take our courses online. They're already complaining. They're like onlined out. When will we meet to do something, right? So how we're going to do hybrid, I don't know. I was just reading some of the commentary. I see some people are trying, but like we're doing on Friday our online awards, our housing awards. Scott, I'm going to tell you something. We planned it. It was all ready to go in May, right? It was like done. You know, it was just a question of the logistics. We have had to, in less than 7 weeks, take that whole event and redo it virtual. Sounds simple, right? It is a nightmare. It is just expletive, a nightmare. And I can assure you, after watching the national awards last week online, there were lots of people going, this sucks. Why can't we do this in person? You know, so
well, I definitely think there's different types of people when it comes to that. You know, there's definitely some that would love to, you know, just have it come to them right at their desk versus those that, you know, love to travel and get there and be, you know, social and those type of things. So, you know, Kevin, I don't know if you've heard, you know, done any surveys or had, you know, any, you know, any comments about what type of surveys are out there asking? I mean, Nicole brought up a good question about, you know, how do your members feel, you know, about one way or the other or hybrids?
Yeah, I'm just relating what I saw, you know, in Collaborate, but Tammy Selden down in North Carolina, the ED from the Giant Screen TV Association, shared the best sample that I've seen so far. Because I think, and just like here, you know, people are saying, look, we've got sort of a bipolar audience of maybe a larger one out there of people who actually are not old school, and maybe they're sort of newish to your organization, or they've just been unengaged over time, and so they're actually reasonably delighted for a while. They might get burned out too, but this is a step in the right direction because it doesn't require business travel, etc. But what I really liked about the sample that she shared, and I borrowed part of that already for one large association that Rhonda Payne, you know, from ASAE and I are working on with a large insurance organization evaluating this. And we're also about to move into doing another project in a similar vein, a feasibility assessment for an equipment dealer association that's actually seeing COVID as an opportunity to move into sort of another area for small equipment that'll be focused on consumers. And so I'm actually seeing some great creativity when it comes to both, you know, what people are asking themselves, but also what they're poised to act on. I always stress that in times like this, I may be mostly a researcher, but you don't want to get too heavy into analysis paralysis if you know it's a given that you're going to have to become more virtual. You know, hybrid events are one thing. Another is simply looking at your entire education program and saying how much of this should be virtual and how much of it should be in person. And, you know, we know that for a while we'll have to hold off on implementing in-person stuff, but, you know, it doesn't mean we can't be ready for it. And as much as Renee's life has been going through hell, you know, trying to adjust to this, you just acquired this great new core competency, right? I mean, you've learned how to, in 7 weeks, you took a crash course in how to do this. And I know I'm sort of making light of it, but man, it's like, this is the kind of thing we're all going to have to do. It might be, to Scott's point too, it's kind of like another form of content marketing. If they like what they saw in your webinars, and at least graded on the big curve of all the other webinars you can choose from, then you start to, you know, take a look and you realize this group is showing, they're not telling you they're great, they're showing what they can deliver for you. So sorry for the ramble, but I keep thinking that I'm seeing you know, again, a spectrum of groups, and there are some people who are very thoughtful, and there's some people who are just jumping in the water, and I think they're probably going to be glad that they did. So.
Yeah, I play saxophone as my hobby. So you know, we're all jazz musicians at this point, improvising, trying to figure out what to do next. So I can see that. And it's, you know, like you said, Kevin, I mean, it's really interesting how some of them might find that blue ocean, or, you know, at least be more risk tolerant in going forward, trying new things because of, you know, what they're seeing around them, and also in the future, or whatever future they can envision. So, you know, it's a scary thing, and, you know, you got to try different things.
Well, so I want reserves too, is what I'm thinking, is that some people just have deeper reserves where they can experiment, and other people are just like,
yeah, some are prepared, some are not.
Jennifer, can you share a little bit about what you guys are doing with your hybrid events and why you decided to go hybrid and not virtual right now?
Well, right now they're all virtual. We do about 80 meetings and events a year.
Oh,
so and that includes our training programs for certification and accreditation. And that part of it, they were already asking for online training for that, because we work with airports and they have to be in the airport working. So if they can do it, you know, on a break or a night shift or whatever, great. So I think, you know, when all of this happened and we had to cancel so much, it was a really kind of a blessing for our training staff to be able to stop and take everything online. And they'd been kind of moving that way, but they hadn't gotten there yet. Now they are. They are doing online proctoring now. So they actually, sorry, I have a dog in the background, might bark. They proctor the exams online. So they actually have a Zoom link, and they, Caden, take him out. They have a Zoom link and they just sit and stare at the person taking the test for I don't know how long, but it's working for now. As far as our larger meetings, we actually just had a demo this morning for the entire staff of our new system. They call it Madison, which is just an inside the association term because we're on Madison Street. But it's built straight into our AMS. And the woman that's running it on the back end can really kind of produce what gets seen. You can move back and forth between different people. She does all of the transitions. It sort of looks like Zoom because it's got the chat and the Q&A, and then there's a survey thing built into it. But we're going to launch that next week to our entire membership for our membership meeting, which normally would have taken place at our annual conference. So we'll see how the membership receives it. But we have a meeting coming up in Savannah in September, and they haven't canceled it yet.
Wow.
I think they're going to try and do it as a hybrid meeting. But we'll see what comes of that. So.
Well, just to give you guys a little bit of, to help you feel a little bit better, if you feel like we're struggling with this whole virtual thing, I've actually over the last week, the rubber hit the road, the whatever you want to call it, hit the fan with one of my clients. As they were supposed to have a meeting in August, they pushed it to September, and now it's virtual. We created all of these what we thought were really good sponsorship packages and everything else for them when most of them had already committed anyway. So it was really supposed to be a substitution effort, not a we need to resell you effort. And as I've been reaching out to the bigger ones, they are also telling me, we don't know what to do with virtual. We don't know what the ROI is. We don't know what we should be supporting. We don't know what our budgets are. And I don't know if that makes you guys feel better or worse, but I'm going, holy crap, seriously? So I'm not just convincing my client about what to do. I'm now trying to educate you guys on why this is valuable. And we're all so set in our ways as people and so used to face-to-face that just welcome to the madness of now trying to explain to them what the value is. And I know this is not about membership, but I think that this is applicable because we're trying to promote to our members, we're trying to prove value to them. Somebody finally said to me, and this is very interesting, in education and providing it to members in general, is somebody said to me yesterday, very insightful, said, so basically what you're offering me is a digital marketing opportunity, right? And I had to say, you know what? You're exactly right. That's what we're doing. We're providing a virtual expo hall. We're providing a bunch of banner advertising. We're mentioning you in e-newsletters. We're doing this, we're doing that. So if you take a step back and think about it, we are truly offering them a digital marketing opportunity. And so it's to a unique niche audience, which I explained to them, but we need to think about that as we're all jumping into these virtual benefits and everything else. We need to try as best as we can amongst the madness, amongst the going 1,000 miles an hour, to take a step back and go, wait a minute, what is this really? And how might they be perceiving it? Because I thought the offering was great and I still do. But when she said to me, she goes, digital marketing opportunity, not a virtual event. I finally had to say, hey, you know what? Unless you're doing some sort of a live demo during this thing, you're exactly right. You're not really participating in a virtual event. You're getting a extended digital marketing opportunity based around a 3-day event. And so it was just kind of an interesting way to think about things that I really, until she said to me that, I didn't really think about it like that. And so it's important for us to think like that as much as we can.
You know, Scott, I think most of us don't really adhere to, or if we say it, we're not serious when we say the customer is always right. But, you know, it's in a case like this, your prospects actually do see the cross section probably better than you or I or we do, you know, as staff, you know. And it just strikes me that, like, a lot of times, you know, even the fundamental sort of assumptions we've made about our in-person meetings, you know, we just have to accept that maybe you do charge 1/5 as much for the same number of contacts. And sometimes you're trying to encourage trial and adoption of the conversion, you know, from an in-person to an electronic. But then also when we think about where the pockets of money come from and where the expenses are foregone from all of our events, you know, I would almost argue that we have to, you know, like, you know, we heard so much about, like, okay, you're not going to come to Vegas for annual meeting. We didn't have MMC, you know, we canceled them, whatever the other thing was. You know, it's like you almost need to sort of make sure that you've converted it to online, because we're all membership people here, and that's your engagement. It won't be as strong of engagement, but it's almost like in your overall organizational business model, you know you're going to be spending nothing on F&B, very little on you know, sort of facility rentals and things like that. So the actual shrink, the net might not change too much for the education part, but it also, you know, is still going to feed engagement to the degree that you actually sort of develop that quickly as a competency. And I keep seeing associations, I mean, the ones who are helping plan things, they kind of get it, but they're still trying to sort of get used to the idea that, you know, it's two states of the world. And if the world doesn't return to a place where meetings are safe, or people simply get out of the habit after, say, maybe a year and a half of this, where they just didn't go and they realize they didn't miss it too much, then I think we just got to adjust. And, you know, your commissions will be lower and their revenue will be lower, but it's a different business model. Yeah.
No, I kind of wonder. Yeah, it's a definitely different business model. That's where I'm kind of going with my thinking. What you just said, Kevin, because, like, when you think of MMCC, okay, the ASAE's event, they what Scott, you said like 3,000 folks attended online. I don't think that's what they get, you know, in person, right? So the participation levels are huge. So what do you do with that? How do you leverage that in a different way to actually generate the return that you need, you know, beyond the event or at the event? That's where the thinking needs to shift and change. Yeah, and then it might actually send a message. For instance, like ASAE, maybe you're charging too much, or, you know, maybe there's other issues that you had with that event initially that just didn't come to light until you actually had to go virtual. And now you could have had 3,000 participants, or maybe even half of that, which may have been even a lot more than you get, you know, yearly. So it's a different type of thinking and shifting of the mindset for what events really are. And, you know, it's interesting that Pete and others are going with the hybrid because I feel like it's actually going to increase that engagement that Kevin's talking about, and that participation where it wasn't before. We always complained with associations, you only get 10% of your members actually attending any of your events or that type of thing. You know, if that percentage goes up, isn't that better and more value for the member?
Yeah, well, I wonder if, and Kevin, I saw you were going to say something. One of the things that I've been struggling with is what people really want and how we are defining a hybrid meeting, right? Because we all keep saying there are different types of members, there are different types of attendees. So would a hybrid or would a virtual person, are they attending for connection and engagement? Or is that larger audience attending almost solely, I won't say solely, but almost solely for education? And if that's the case, let's increase our virtual education and still have a face-to-face event. And again, you know, back to what I was saying before, maybe I'm old school, but how are you going to bring people like us sitting in our houses like this into a live event? You can't. So it still has to be separate. You know, are we going to get to a point where at some point you put a Zoom screen up on the big screen and you're at the keynote and you've got them all over the room, so those people are brought in? I personally, and Lee's shaking her head, and I'm thinking, absolutely not. I don't want to see all these faces up on a screen and have them talk and try and join in the conversation. It's chaos. It would never work.
if
So
the
I think
Jedi
it comes down to
if the
value.
Jedi Council can have holograms sitting in chairs, I think we're getting there. We're getting there really real soon.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. We're gonna be there, and then you
We're
can
gonna
bring in
get there.
VR, right? Do we want to all wear VR masks and we can see these people floating around us?
Right.
Maybe, but we're all gonna be bumping into each other if we try and get up and get a cup of coffee, anyways, because we're not gonna actually be able to see real life. But seriously, I wonder if it's not really a conversation of virtual versus hybrid versus in person, but it really is understanding what our people want.
And what they want. Okay, so again, that depends on the member. Obviously 10% of my, membership coming to events, 10% of them crave it so much that they're going to put out the money, go, travel and housing and all that stuff to be there. Where the others would, be happy just to watch it later as a recording, or, be part of it, but, not interrupt their daily life of what they were dealing with, because they're virtual. So, and again, it depends on that industry or what association and what they can tolerate, as far as that's concerned. So yeah, I definitely feel like there can be those separation, and still say this is just an in-person event. This is just a virtual event. There's a hybrid option on this other event. I think there's possibilities. It's just about, what's appropriate and what they could actually get return on.
Yeah, agree.
I think in the end, we're just going to have to be flexible,
Yeah.
right? Because we don't have a vaccine.
Sorry.
There's no drug available to kind of, speed things along or make things better. And in terms, like, I'm hunting down renewals as best as I can. It is a weird state of affairs out there. And, I just think to myself, I could do another survey amongst members, but they just don't give a rat's ass anymore. They don't want to do another survey. And so I'm just like, when we sit in our staff meetings now, and because our group, we have a very talkative group, builders and renovators, yak. Oh, they just talk your ear off forever. And that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind. But in the end, we're going to end up doing all three things, probably for quite some time. But I know one thing for sure. They love in person. I don't have to ask them that question. The vast majority, regardless of their age group, how many years in business, in the end, they really like to talk, right? So I do a product showcase every year. I've canceled it for this year because somebody said to me, do it virtual. And it's like, yeah, you can't touch and look at a wall assembly online. Right. You need to look at it and talk to the person who's the expert in the field, right? So anyways, I just feel that, what I love about this group is that as I'm listening, I hear other ideas coming up in my head, which is another scary thing because I really don't need more work right now, but whatever it takes to keep us going.
Well, I love how I think that's a good segue, Renee. We've gone over 45 minutes on something I kind of promised only 30 minutes, but I'm glad that we have that flexibility that was about that. And I really appreciate everyone participating. Again, we'll put up a recording and the chat highlights and everything like that up online for everyone to view. And also on the 30th of June, we're going to have another one of these at 12:30, June 30th, Tuesday. So look forward to seeing you all then. And thanks and please feel free to, continue this conversation through LinkedIn, or if you have emails of everyone else. And I really appreciate everyone contributing and participating. And thanks, everyone. Be safe and stay well. Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Scott.
Sorry, I was late. I really am. I hate doing that, but it was board meeting day.
No,
as you know, I call everybody to say hi. You made it in. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you did great. Thank you, Renee, for participating and getting involved.
I won't be at the one on June 30th, unfortunately. I need a break. Even if I can't go anywhere, I need to say goodbye to everybody for a few days. So
No,
I'll see you in the one in July.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks,
Thanks so
Renee.
much.
All right, bye.
Bye.